Welcome back. So in my last video I spoke about male loneliness and is this in fact a problem, and how the left have failed to acknowledge male problems as problems. So this week I want to talk a bit more about the problems of male loneliness and some of the reasons, the economic and socio-economic reasons for male loneliness. So I want to talk about the isolation of technology and how technology has really atomized us and made us more insulated and created bubbles of communication. I want to talk about the loss of third places or third spaces that give people the opportunity to connect with their fellow man and woman. I want to talk about how individualization, consumerism and alienation has caused much of the loneliness of males. And then I want to talk about why socialism is the answer to the problem of male loneliness. So let's talk about technology. Well, the promises of the internet were legion, and I would argue, a lot of the isolation and atomization of people under neoliberalism has been really augmented by technology. Especially since COVID-19, we are more likely to spend more time in our home and engage online with Netflix, YouTube, and we are probably spending too much time inside looking on Temu or Shein or buying stuff. And I'll come back to that in a moment. But technology is a key component to male isolation. A lot of men spend a lot of time gaming, for example, which I'm not one of those people who thinks games are evil, but a lot of men do spend a lot of time, especially young men, gaming, and I think that's an issue maybe I'll talk about in the future, but it is an issue we need to take seriously. Also, because we are more likely to spend more time in the home, not outside, this loss of connection is really a key part of loneliness, because what's the opposite of loneliness? It's connection, and that is really an understated thing. It's kind of an obvious problem. People talk about, oh, male loneliness. It's because we are less likely to go outside. It's that simple, really. But that problem and the solution is more complex. So that brings me to third spaces or third places. Massively over the last few decades, pubs, social places, especially in the UK, do not really exist. Pubs are closing down. There's very few pubs around. Pubs are dying. Often people, again, are spending so much more time in the home. They are less likely to be social. And we are social animals. We yearn for social connection with different people. And a big part of the online communities is that often when we are online, we are in our own echo chamber, our own bubble where we agree with the person we watch. And we're not having that opportunity to see different points of view. And that's why third spaces are really important for people, is because you're more likely to meet someone who's very different to you in terms of demographic, class, race, political beliefs, and you're going to see the human side. And a lot of reactionary politics is because, I would argue, the kind of resurgence of far-right reactionary thinking is because we are so isolated. Young men are more likely to be radicalised with Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson and right-wing ideologies because they've never had the connection or met someone who is being demonised. They've never met maybe anybody in the queer community or any black person. So it's the biggest cure for homophobia, racism, is actually connecting and exposure to different people. So these problems are really connected and complex, but once you start to unpack the fact that we have lost these places, and it's no accident in the UK that the Tories have really cut a lot of social policy and a lot of social spending, and I think that is a conscious decision to make people atomized and isolated from other people. So we can't talk about the problems. We can't connect with other people. We are very afraid of the other. And I think that is one of the reasons why, as I'll explain in the end, we need socialism. So we have technology and how it isolates us from other people. The loss of third spaces, which make it hard to connect with other people outside of work. So the other element I want to talk about is how capitalism alienates us, how the job market is, what jobs opportunities do people have these days, and also with the impending automation of the economy, these problems are going to only get worse. Also with climate change as well, the fear of the other. 1 billion people are going to be displaced through climate change, and they've got to go somewhere. So we need to tackle these problems of othering and looking at broader social issues as just that, broader social, not individual issues. So this loss of connection, which I believe is the root of male loneliness, is caused by a loss of meaning. In a consumerist society, as I said earlier, where people just stay at home, browsing Amazon or eBay, just getting that, after that dopamine hit of watching a YouTube video or playing a game. Whereas that is such, I cannot understate how such a big problem that is for male loneliness. We need to be able to get out there and socialise, because that's what we evolved to do. We are social animals, and that is why depression rates are skyrocketing. It's because people can't afford housing or to buy a house. Employment, education. How much is education now in the UK? It's £9,000 a year. A lot of people can't afford that. Then you've got the job prospects of, if you have a PhD, 4 million people in the UK are underemployed. So there's so many interconnected issues which are just exacerbating the problem of loneliness. And the big problem we've got to face is this is not an individual issue, it's a capitalism issue. And that's the argument I want to really reinforce, is that we are alienated from our labour. We are alienated from what is a meaningful life. Is it just consuming? Is it just watching Netflix? Is it just watching YouTube? Is it actually connecting with people, meeting new people, enjoying that process of connection with another human being? Which I know sounds crazy, but that's what a big part of the problem is. That do people actually want to connect with people? People are so cynical about other people, and this discourse on the internet that you see, like, oh, other people, like, people don't like people. And I think that's a key problem as well. Like, people seem very cynical, and their view of humanity is that they're manipulative and liars, and it's but also there is that belief that there is good in humans, that their friends are the good ones. So we need to just challenge the idea that actually people aren't inherently bad. We need to talk with more people and know that people are basically all the same. So that brings me to the final point. So how does socialism solve these problems of alienation, consumerism, atomization, the loss of third places? Well, by focusing on the idea that it's the proletariat, it's the average person that should be given more democratic control of the workplace. That's all socialism means. Capitalism is ownership in private hands, and socialism, all it means, very simple, is that the workers, the people who create the value, have more of a say in how things are run, and hopefully are paid more for their labour, a fairer wage. I don't want to talk about abolishing the commodity form, because that's way in the future, but we need to seriously talk about how, because everybody pays lip service to the idea that democracy is one of the most important elements of society. a fair society. But why can't we extend this to the workplace? That's what we need to do. And we need to talk about that. And we need to convince people of that, because I don't think your average person is convinced of that. The idea that for a lot of people is that, oh, that could never work, or that's a pipe dream, or that, oh, like, no. But that's what we need to be able to connect the fact that most of the problems of loneliness are bad jobs. We need a new green economy. We need innovation, because capitalism does not innovate at all. We all know that. I mean, look, the iPhone 15, yeah. So we need to give meaning to work more, because a big part of depression is the fact that people do not have a connection to the workplace. They feel like there's no choice, there's no meaning, they have no say in their workplace. And by giving that, and the workplace is the place that most people spend their lives, they will create more deeper connections with their fellow proletariat. They will have a say in how a company works. And I guarantee that company, because we're talking about co-ops here, and there's problems with co-ops and how you scale them up, but this is stuff we need to talk about, implement and experiment with. There's no imagination with this kind of stuff at the moment, so we need to actually explore the possibilities. Once we have a more vibrant view of, okay, because since people know this, since COVID-19, like, people know that it was the bin man, the teachers, the nurses, the cleaners. These are the people that hold up society. They create value. Bankers, hedge fund managers do not create any value. They extract value. So we need to talk about this idea that we are more atomized, more lonely, more divided because of capitalism. And it's by coming together as a group, because we are powerful as the proletariat. Most people have to work for the ability to put food on the table, to pay the rent. And we just want a bigger piece of the pie, and actually we want to own the means of production, because that is the only way we can seriously tackle the problems of isolation, depression, focus of consumerism, the loss of third places where we don't get to meet the diversity of the world and the people around us. And again, it's the exposure to other people that makes us realise that we are all the same. We have the same values, we have the same problems, and ultimately we want the same things. So, I've rambled on a lot there. Tell me in the comments what you think about male loneliness. How can we tackle this problem? How do we talk about the problem? Do you think the solution is socialism, and why isn't it socialism? How can we seriously tackle male loneliness? Because it's not an individual problem. Men inherently, yes, there's individual problems, but it's a social problem, it's a structural problem. So, hit me up in the comments. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Take care.